That's all, folks.
We've brought in one of the Hall of Fame performers that everyone loves. He's actually also not only a legendary voiceover artist and actor, but he is part of our upcoming Combat Radio's Christmas Carol for a Cure, which is this.
Holiday revelers, good evening and welcome to a Combat Radio Christmas Carol.
Merry Christmas to you, Uncle.
Keep walking.
Are you the spirit who's coming?
No, I work for Amazon.
I'm back.
I know I'm not supposed to talk or anything.
He wants to have dinner with us.
Well, he must be off his meds. Tell him to go away.
We get it.
Way to kill my buzz.
Mine too. I mean, if I used.
What?
Make it 3.
Don't push it, kid. Don't push it.
You're right, 2 sounds good.
How much are we talking about? Because I put up with a lot of shit.
Hey, there are kids in the audience, goddammit.
What's on your wall, Bob? What are we looking at?
So I collect life masks of artists I admire.
Mm-hmm.
And it really started out because I was looking for a life mask of Mel Blanc. Now, why would Mel Blanc have a life mask? But as I'm surfing around various auctions, the first one I bought was Alfred Hitchcock. I thought, that's kind of cool. And I bid low, and I win some, I don't win some. But behind me, it's Hitchcock, it's Jack Nicholson, it's Cagney, it's Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff, oh my gosh, Bob Hope, Robin Williams, Brando, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr. Across the hall or across the other side, I've got James Dean and Katharine Hepburn. Just artists that I admire, and I'm surrounded by them in my office.
Nice. Fun fact, we're actually broadcasting from the Hitchcock building at Universal. We were up until a point before they leveled it to make room for Nintendo World. Now we're in the Verna Fields building.
Wait, they leveled Hitchcock's office?
Yeah, well, not his offices, but the Hitchcock building where he did all his posts North by Northwest, where John Carpenter did the post for the thing.
No way.
Yeah, they flattened it for Nintendo World, but moved us over to the Verna Fields building, the building named after the editor for Jaws. So it sucks that there's not always the respect you want for some of these industry titans, but you got them on.
I was a tour guide at Universal for 5 years, and on my lunch hours and on my days off, I would wander the lot, and I would go into stage 28, which was the Phantom of the Opera stage, as you know. And I leveled that years ago too. So that's heartbreaking, that stuff.
We talked about that. You got the job. I applied for that job too and did not get it, but you got it. And they undoubtedly hired the right guy. Your personality is perfect for that. But let's talk about that for a minute. Like Universal in those days, what decade was that? When did you get hired?
Early to mid 80s. So like 82-ish to 87-ish. Like Miami Vice was a hit show when I was a tour guide.
When you were working there, was that in the days they used to take people off the trams and take them into the stages for like demonstrations? And one of them was Airport 77, the flooding of the air, the aircraft where they would bring volunteers. Do you remember that?
I think what you're talking about is the entertainment center, the live shows where they did Airport 77. That was before my time. And they had, Castle Dracula and Conan the Barbarian, all that stuff. The Animal Actor stage. But I would take them through the special effects stage, where we showed them how they did, stop motion animation and the E.T. bike, scene and Early on, when I first got the job, we did Buck Rogers in the 25th century. I almost said Buck Rogers in the 24th and a half century because of my time with Looney Tunes. That's Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century. So,
Right.
but yeah, and you're right. It was a fun job. It's a great job for performers because you have to perform. I mean, on a busy day, you do 5 2.5 hour tours, and I loved it. I loved I love the people. I've got lifelong friends. We're trying to plan a reunion right now of the 80s tour guides and possibly take the tour together and have a nice reception. And a lot of really successful people working in show business today who came from the tour.
Right. And a lot that didn't get the job. I'm not naming names. But wait, hold on. They also had Battlestar Galactica where they would shoot the Cylons and they just split evenly down the middle. There was like the Battlestar Galactica.
They had the battle of. You know what I have somewhere?
Mm-hmm.
I've got my very first tour on cassette tape because I recorded. I always went everywhere with a cassette recorder because I wanted to be a voice actor. So I recorded my very first tour. I posted it online a few times, but yeah,
I want to see that. I want to see that.
Oh, that was his audio.
I'm very nostalgic for that time. And, you know, there was also, I mean, fun fact about Conan the Barbarian, that show starred Mark Dacascos and Al Leong. They were part of that cast, and Bob Gurr, the Disney Imagineer, designed it.
Yeah, good people. Good people.
Yeah, we've had those conversations behind the scenes on that attraction and the original King Kong multiple times and how that all worked with Wasserman. I think we talked a little bit about Lou Wasserman. But also, those were the days when the Transylvania set was still intact from all the Universal Monster Machine films, and they still had reverence for the Dracula set, the Frankenstein set, you know, and now those are gone. That became the good place. There's still, if you look, signs of it, but it's not what it once was. So it's sad to see a lot of that shipped out and gone. Were you there when there was what do they call it? The Universal, it was like a Scooby-Doo mystery. It was a real thing. There was the Universal guy that was the Phantom Slasher or something that would like terrorize the trams in the park at night. And it turned out
they did Halloween Horror Nights. They still do. They did the first one when I was a tour guide in '85.
This is a real guy who it turned out to be a security guard who would dress up like Phantom of the Opera and run. They say he was based in the Greens department. And he would terrorize the backlot at night and spook the productions and then disappear. And he did it for months before they finally, I guess, saw him, chased him. He jumped into the wash, broke his foot, and they caught him. And it's like a Scooby-Doo story, but it's a real thing. Like he was trying to scare productions for months and months and months as like this Phantom backlot slasher.
Wow, never heard that. No, that's fascinating.
Well, there's one for you, Bob. But anyway, let's circle back to the career. Talk to me about going from being a tour guide, epic job that was, and then getting a paycheck to do something you love. Like, how did you land your first job in the industry as a performer?
So I'd already been studying acting and voiceover and was a represented working actor when I got the job at Universal. You know, back then there were no home studios. So, you know, I did what every actor did. You know, some actors wait tables, some are bartenders. I was a tour guide. I worked 5 days at Universal and 7 nights a week in various other jobs to pay the bills so I could pursue voiceover. And, you know, out of the gate, you're not going to make a living at this. But I got really lucky to have my first agent was a guy named Don Pitts. And I was introduced to Don Pitts by Casey Kasem, who I didn't know the guy. A friend of the family had him send me an autographed picture for my high school graduation. And I sent him a thank you note with my phone number saying, listen, I really want to get into voiceover. And he called me up and he said, you know, do you have a demo? I said, no. He goes, well, make me something on cassette, homemade demo. If I like it, I'll play it for my agent. Well, Don at the time was at Cedars in an oxygen tent. I don't even know what happened to him, but he wasn't well. But Casey, bless his heart, went to the hospital, to his room, and played him my cassette through the plastic of the oxygen tent. And when Don got healthy, he called me up and he said, I think you're very talented. I'd like to represent you. And I said, well, mister, I don't know what that means. But as long as it's after 3 o'clock, because I have school. I don't graduate until June. This was like in May, early May. So Don, I didn't realize was the CAA of voiceover. He had Mel Blanc, June Foray, he had Casey, he had Orson Welles, he had Paul Winchell. He just had the creme de la creme of voiceover, and he would have me come to his office to practice how to audition 2 or 3 times a week. And graduated high school, trained to be a tour guide, got the job at Universal, and these were the days of pagers. So I had my pager with me throughout every tour. If I saw a phone call from my agent or my agent's office, I would, as best I could, either during a tour or after a tour, find a phone to call him back to see what was needed.
Right.
And oftentimes I'd go, oh my God, I've got a terrible toothache. I've got to leave and go to my dentist. I was going to an audition or a job, but that's how it was back then.
So those were the days when the tour would stop for restroom breaks. So you could probably pull the tram over from it.
Well, the tour would stop. So if you were on the tram, you stopped at the special effects stage about 10, 15 minutes in.
Mm-hmm.
You would drop off your group, pick up another one. That gives you at least 5 minutes. And then you would drop off people at Prop Plaza, same deal. So I had 3 opportunities within 2.5 hours to make I had to go to a payphone because we didn't have cell phones back then. And I knew where the payphones were.
Yeah.
And I always carried change in my pocket. I would jingle, but again, this is what actors had to do.
So let me see if I get your story straight here, Dr. Bergen. Casey Kasem, the voice of Shaggy.
Yes.
He gets you your first agent. And from there, a legendary future awaits.
Well, it waited a while because it took me about 5 years before I was able to make a living at this.
When did you get, what was your first job? Do you remember what it was? Of course you remember what it was. What was
I do.
it? Like,
it got me my SAG card, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. It was an NBC Saturday morning cartoon.
Okay. And what was your role in that?
I played an extraterrestrial teenager named Bartow. This is kind of interesting. Bartow and his sister crash land on Earth. Spider-Man has a fling with the sister, but Earth's atmosphere alters Bartow's immune system to where he can't fight off simple diseases like a cold. And as we're recording this cartoon, I remember saying to the cast and to the director, this sounds like that acquired immune deficiency thing that they're talking about in the news today. And they're like, oh yeah, it does, doesn't it? So it was like, this cartoon was recorded about the time we first heard about AIDS. It was fascinating that there was a correlation between this real thing and this animated thing.
And I remember that actually being a fun show. So that's not a bad place to start, buddy. That's a good.
Well, I will tell you, I was excited to work on it because Stan Lee was the narrator, and I was like, I get to meet Stan Lee. No, he did his part separately, and I got to meet him years later, really just a few years before he passed away. We were both presenting at the Annie Awards and backstage. I shared this story with him, and I was excited to meet him, but he wasn't there. And he goes, well, you get to meet me now. Aren't you excited? And I said, I am, Stan Lee.
Yeah, Stan Lee at his finest, always a crowd favorite. That guy knew exactly where his audience was and who it was, and he knew how to play to them. Brilliant. So you went on to do like Tweety Bird, Porky Pig. These are like hallmark characters that had entertained people for generations. So do you feel like there's some kind of responsibility with that, or how did this fall to you? And did you like have any second thoughts about doing? I mean, it's a job, so no, probably. But you sit back and you go, do you have moments where you go, oh, fuck, man, I'm Tweety Bird now?
Well, I never. First of all, a whole bunch of us have played these characters over the 34 years I've been involved. I'm the predominant voice of Porky Pig. I think I've done it more than anybody else. Do I feel a sense of responsibility? 100%. Do I feel a responsibility to be Mel Blanc? Never. Oh my gosh, there was one Mel Blanc, and none of us come close to his genius. My sense of responsibility is that I have such integrity for the character, for the legacy of the character. I have worked on things. I'd say 90% of the stuff I've worked on have been great. Every once in a while you get something and you're like, I don't think Porky would say it that way. or I don't think that this is appropriate for these characters. One time that happened, I actually quit the job and was fired on the same day because I took issue with the content. That only happened once. For the most part, if there's a line where I just think Porky would say it differently, I always respect the writer, the producer, the director, and do it as written first. And then I'll say something like, can I try one take just for me? And they never say no. And once I've done that take, it's out of my hands. What they use in the finished product, that's completely their discretion. But I feel a creative integrity to try to stay as true to the character as possible. We just finished about 5 or 6 seasons of this thing called Looney Tunes Cartoons for Max, which basically look and sound like Bob Clampett and Tex Avery are producing cartoons today. Full orchestra, brilliant animation, just incredible timing, and don't get me wrong, the show Duck Dodgers was an homage to Chuck Jones. I've done some really great stuff over the years, and I've done some stuff where I'm like, yeah, that was the character. It's okay.
How often would you say your own take makes it into the product?
I don't know, because I don't usually watch it. So, I mean, I'm not a fan of watching my work. I may, when a new show comes out, I might watch an episode, but I cringe when I hear myself. I'm a control freak, so I'm not. As you said, I'm not in control of editing, of the choice of the take. Sometimes they cut out the setup to the joke where now the joke doesn't work, or they cut the joke out entirely for time. So I just do not enjoy just watching or listening to my work. Never have. I like the doing, not the viewing.
But do you, despite the self-torture, do you have like a character or a show or a moment that stands out to you where you go, oh, I usually agonize over this, but that's one of the moments where I nailed it?
It's interesting that you said that, because I recently put together kind of a career sizzle reel of Porky, which you know, when there's a new project, they make me audition over and over and over again. And you know, I've got 4 Emmy nominations for the character. I've got 34 years playing him. So I just kind of decided I'm not going to audition anymore. So I put together this 2.5 minute sizzle reel of what I call the best of my work as the character. And I had to go back and watch some stuff. And I included some stuff from Duck Dodgers, from New Looney Tunes, from Looney Tunes cartoons. I mean, we did one for New Looney Tunes where Daffy blindfolds Porky and takes him out to the forest to sniff out truffles, because that's what pigs do. And Porky says, Daffy, I'm not that kind of pig. I wear a blazer. I mean, that sort of comedy, that writing, and it was written by people from the Groundlings. It was superb writing. I mean, we did one where Porky's chowing down on a pepperoni pizza, and Daffy's like, "You do realize what that is?" And Porky is like, "What? Oh no!" And Porky realized his favorite food was pork products. That's funny stuff.
That is funny stuff.
But I hadn't seen that stuff. So going back and revisiting. And by the way, if it ain't on the page, it's not going to come out of my mouth. I am. I almost said I am a victim of the writing, but I'm no good. No actor is any good without those words. And I respect those words. And man, great writing acts itself. And I have been really blessed over the years to have been able to do great stuff because of great writers.
Who is that character originally based on? Which Hollywood? He's based on somebody from the 30s, isn't he?
Porky Pig?
Yeah, Porky Pig. And
well, from what I understand,
maybe off the record now, but he was.
From what I understand, he was created by Friz Freleng, and Friz's daughter Hope, who's a friend of mine, told me that Friz, when he was a kid, there was a chubby stutterer in class, and they called him Porky. Now, Porky's first cartoon was a parody of the Our Gang comedies, and Porky was a child, and they had all these kid characters, and the guy that voiced Porky George Doherty was his name. He actually stuttered. And because he stuttered so much, they would speed up his performance so these cartoons could come in the 6 minutes that the theater owners allowed for an animated short. But he wasted so much film stock, because these were recorded directly onto film. Tape didn't exist yet. So Jack Warner said to the executives at Leon Schlesinger's studio, that was the cartoon studio, you got to find somebody else who can control this character better, so we're not spending so much money on film stock. And that's when they got Mel Blanc, who worked once on a Porky Pig cartoon, but not as Porky Pig. And that's when he took over voicing the character.
Right, legend. What is it when you're on the convention circuit? What is it people want from you? Like, what do they gravitate to?
You know what's fascinating is I would always bring my Looney Tune stuff or the Disney stuff or the Pixar stuff. And it's a lot of the anime that I've done. And I have done a lot. But basically, if you look at my convention table, I've got pictures and stuff based on fans saying, do you have No Face from Spirited Away? And I'm like, you saw that? Yeah. Okay, now I've got No Face. I don't even remember the name, but I've got the book. There's a movie called Army of Darkness. And I don't even remember the name of the character. But it was a book, and it's like a man-eating book. It flies around and tries to eat Bruce Campbell. And if fans listening to this are going to know, oh, dude, you don't know the name of that character. It's blah, 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 blah. It sounds like necrophilia. I know that's not right.
But you were the book.
That's a disorder.
That is a disorder. You were the book that tried to eat Bruce Campbell? It sounds like necrophilia. Anyway, too many people kept saying, or bringing me pictures of the book. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot I even did this. So my table and what I offer grows with every time. Lupin the Third from Castle of Cagliostro. Those sorts of things that the fan base is tremendous. But if a fan requests it, I add it the next time I have a convention. Nice. We got to find some book replicas for you to sign for A Christmas Carol silent auction.
I've signed them. Oh my gosh.
Who makes them?
Oh yeah, the fans love this thing. I don't know, but they bring them and they're really cool. I don't know if they make them. I don't know if I know there's companies that make lightsaber replicas and Star Trek communicator replicas, but I don't know if there's a company that makes the necrophilia book from Army of Darkness. If there's not, there should be.
That's absolutely hilarious. And you're perfect for that, man. What a well-rounded talent. Okay, man. So looking back now, with all the things you've done, what is it that you sit back and go, this is something I'd like to professionally take a crack at? What's missing? Besides, of course, doing a live performance with us this November at a Combat Radio Christmas Carol. What else is missing from the resume?
That's interesting. I've kind of done everything I wanted to do, and that question is answered better once that new thing comes up and I never knew I wanted to do it. I mean, I think all of us would love to have their SpongeBob, that sort of character that goes on for 25 years, that's original, that's well known. At 60, I don't think I'm going to have for 25 years, but you never know.
Never know.
Boy, I'll tell you a weird one that's unrelated to I did a lot of sitcoms in the 80s, a lot of on-camera work, but it got in the way of my voiceover career. Not that I'm going to pursue on camera right now because I don't have a contemporary body of work. There's nothing to sell. But man, would it be fun to do a multi-camera sitcom and the life of a sitcom actor. And if somebody wants to write a sitcom, there was one years ago, a single camera that Jim Carrey did called The Duck Factory. And Don Messick, who was Scooby-Doo, was in it as the voice guy. And it was way before its time. And it lasted like one season or less. But man, to bring something like that back with voice actors playing voice actors, that'd be cool.
Was that Gene Laufenberg that produced that? We've had conversations about that on this show. I can't remember who was behind it. Good choice.
I know it was MTM. I know it was Mary Tyler Moore's production company. It was MTM.
Okay. All right. What circle back to that for a minute. Like, what sitcoms did you do out of curiosity? Please tell me it was Three's Company.
Oh my goodness.
WKRP.
I just posted it on Facebook because I always have white noise in the background, which is always like MeTV or classic television networks. And an episode of The Facts of Life. Well, what happened was I'm just typing away with this white noise in the background, and I heard my voice, and I looked, I went, oh God, that episode is on. So, I just backed up my DVR and just took out my phone and recorded it and posted it on my Facebook page. So I did several episodes of The Facts of Life. I did Give Me a Break. I did Silver Spoons. I did One Day at a Time. Yeah. I did a lot of the tandem Norman Lear sitcoms.
Did you see Eddie Van Halen around the set of One Day at a Time?
No, I didn't. For One Day at a Time, I did the very last episode, which was a backdoor pilot for Pat Harrington's Schneider character. Yeah. So all the other actors were not on that. And I think his character moved to Florida. Corey Feldman was a part of that episode. And I believe I had either just done the movie Gremlins that he was in or was about to. No, I must have already done it. And who else was in? Robbie Rist, who I went to high school with. And we were in the little shuttle from the parking lot and looking at each other. I'd lost like 100 pounds and Robbie gained a little weight. And we're looking at each other. Do we know each other? And I knew Robbie really well. So Robbie was in that. That was fun. That was a fun episode. It wasn't picked up. The Facts of Life episode I did was a backdoor pilot about a college fraternity. And I was one of the fraternity brothers, but that wasn't picked up either.
So Facts of Life, that's where Clooney started gaining ground.
That was after I worked on the show.
Yeah. Well, I understand that he only had success on it because they couldn't get you back. So they had to go with
that's right.
second. They had to go with a second tier talent.
Clooney also did a sitcom called ER about that time.
Yeah. And whatever happened to that? Whatever happened to him? Whatever.
I heard he makes alcohol, tequila, something like that.
I heard he's actually a tour guide at Universal now, but that remains to be.
Yeah. And that's a great job for him.
It comes full circle. But let's talk about Gremlins. Did you have fun doing that?
I had a blast doing that. It was.
They're inside. All of them?
What are they doing?
They're watching Snow White. And they love it. Where's the boiler room?
It's in the back of the theater.
Yum, yum.
Cover your mouth. Don't breathe any gas.
Billy?
Go. Watch out! Come on!
So creative. It was my first motion picture.
Mhm.
And to do a Joe Dante Steven Spielberg movie, your first motion picture, it was a blast. It was so much fun. It killed my throat. My first day working on the film, I was so nervous. I drank just like gallons and gallons of coffee. And driving home, I was still living with my parents, and driving home, I drove home Benedict Canyon, and the coffee just made me sick, and I passed out on the road. And when I woke up, the front tire was hanging over the edge of Benedict Canyon, and I had to flag somebody down. And it was, again, before cell phones. No, I take that back. It wasn't before cell phones. I had what was called a transportable phone. It looked like a little briefcase, and I was able to call 911. But I did flag people down because I didn't want them to hit my car. Yeah, that was the first night I did Gremlins. And then I think I ended up doing about 4 or 5 days on the film. And it was so exciting. It was so cool.
Talk about a surprise, right? I remember when that came out and going to see it in the theater going, I don't know what to make of what this is. But after I saw it, I was like, that was fun. That was a fun movie. And everyone in it is so good. So on your 5 days, like, do you ever look at the film and be like, oh, there's my moment?
Saw it for the first time since I think I first saw it this past Christmas. Because people think of it as a Christmas movie. I didn't. But I watched it trying to remember bits and pieces that I did. And now, by the way, again, just like when you record a cartoon, you don't know which actor or which take they use in the finished product. But pretty sure I did the voice of the gremlin exploding in a microwave. Mm-hmm. Pretty sure I did the gremlin on the ceiling fan that goes flying into the jukebox.
Right.
I heard little bits and pieces. I remember there was one bit in the movie theater where one of them gets up to leave and the other one yells out after him, "Milk duds," or something like that, to bring back milk duds. We did a lot of improvisation. Mark Mangini was the sound editor. The man is a freaking genius.
Yeah.
I also auditioned for and with him. Yeah, the memories of that film, like it feels like it was yesterday. It was 107 years ago, and and I was still a tour guide. So we'd be doing the tour, and we're going through Courthouse Square, and I'm talking about, you guys are going to see this in a movie called Gremlins. It's a Warner Brothers picture, but they rent out our backyard. And after it was dressed for Gremlins, then it was dressed for Hill Valley for Back to the Future. Same set. Right. So yeah, that was all my era.
So here's my question with Gremlins. do you know what happened to some of the guys that did that work with you, and who were some of them are today?
Frank Welker.
Frank was part of that
voice actor.
Yeah, mediocre.
Yeah.
Great guy, by
Frank
the way.
Welker, the best guy. He was at my first Spider-Man session, and I walked up to him and I said, I have a little diarrhea today because I'm so nervous. This is my first job. I'm getting my SAG card. And I just want you to know that I worship the ground you walk on because you're Fred from Scooby-Doo and you're brilliant.
Yeah.
And every take out of my mouth, he gave me the thumbs up or the perfect okay sign just to make me feel good. He is, to this day, one of the gems in our industry.
Could not be a nicer guy.
Howie Mandel was in Gremlins, and I was a huge Say It Elsewhere fan at the time, which was his show. And there was a rapist on the loose on Say It Elsewhere, and they didn't tell you who he was at this point when I was recording the film. So I walked up to him and I said, is it Dr. So-and-so? And he goes, how do you know that? I said, because I'm putting it all together. I think it's Dr. So-and-so. He goes, it is, but don't tell anybody because it's not going to come out for 6 months. I said, I won't sell a soul. Michael Sheehan was on that film. A huge legend at Hanna-Barbera was Bam Bam in a Pebbles and Bam Bam series. Before that, tons of Hanna-Barbera shows. Peter Cullen, I think, was in that. I'd have to go back and look at the credits. But by the way, it's also my only credit with my real name because my real name is Bob Berger, and I had to change it when I joined SAG because there was already a Bob Berger in SAG. So Gremlins I was recording it and it was under contract just as I was changing my name through the union. So it's the only credit that has Bob Berger.
Nice little historical footnote there for the rest of us. What a great movie to kick off, sort of your live action film career with. That's such a legendary moment. I don't know what to do with you, Bob. I mean, you're so well-rounded talent-wise. It's kind of frightening. But also, I think what we need is a closer look at your collection of death masks, because you said you have Bob Hope and Hitchcock. Wait, real quick, if we're going to talk Hitchcock and Bob Hope for a second, give us a recommendation. Best film from either one of those guys, Bob Hope or Hitchcock. I'm going to say Ghostbreakers for Hope. What do you got for the rest?
Oh, that's such a great movie.
Isn't it?
Ghostbreakers Incorporated. You make 'em, we shake 'em. Bob Hope speaking. Yes, Paulette Goddard's a partner in this firm. What? You want me to send her around? Listen, if I could tell Paulette what to do, I wouldn't send her to your house. Sucker. You know, I never knew there were so many ghosts roaming around loose until Paulette and I got into the Ghostbreakers. Believe me, the Cat and the Canary was a pink tea compared to this picture. It all starts on one terrible night. Basil Rathbone must be giving a party. That's the night that Paulette inherits a ghostly ancient castle off the coast of Cuba. The place is filled with mummies and spooks that walk at midnight. There are murders and death warnings planned to frighten Paulette and me, but we ain't frightened. I'll match you to see who faints first.
That sounds like Miss Carter's voice.
Ah, that's what they're trying to make us believe.
Where are you?
One reason Paulette and I are such good ghost breakers is that we don't believe in ghosts. Or do I?
Such a great movie and such a scary movie for a comedy, but it's such a great movie.
Yeah. So I remember watching it on the Family Film Festival. Tom Hatton here in LA played it for us when we were like 10.
Oh, don't we miss Tom Hatton?
We do. He was like, all right. So he was kind of like our Robert Osborne for Turner Classic Movies on like the local KTLA level. He knew the movies. He remember how he would draw Popeye in between breaks?
Well, he would do Popeye Sunday mornings, and then Sunday afternoon the film festival, and he sat in a chair next to that projector. And gave those little like Robert Osborne gave those little tidbits of information. Other Bob Hope movie, Seven Little Boys, I thought was a brilliant movie. And Hitchcock, I go back to Psycho. And I go back to not knowing the secret of Psycho when I saw it. I didn't know how the movie ended. I just was seeing the scary movie Psycho. And that was kind of cool because it was very hard to find somebody who didn't realize what the hook was. But I did. I had never seen it. And Psycho. Rope is brilliant just because of the cinematography as single takes. I'll tell you what I didn't like. I didn't like Vertigo. Vertigo when I was at work. It would screen it for us, and I thought this is the most obvious, overacted, gimmicky. I don't. What are people seeing in this? I just didn't like it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Vertigo either. I'm not really. I love the way Rope is done, but I have to tell you, I hate those two punk elitists in Rope so much that I can't enjoy watching the movie.
Which, by the way, I agree with you. They were just not likable people. And what's interesting about any movie that has a villain, if you don't like the villain, well, then the movie's going to fail. We liked Norman Bates. He was a victim. And well, until the end, I'm not going to give away the ending because somebody's not seen it, but you love J.R. Ewing as a victim because, he was just a cad, but there was something just so deliciously charming about him. But, you like the Wicked Witch of the West too.
J.R. Ewing,
like a villain.
Yeah, you do have to like a villain. J.R. Ewing, though, that actor was really beloved. I know people who worked on that set with him, and he was a Frank Welker type in a sense. Very well liked by the people around him. But it is funny going back to Psycho. I love looking at it and wondering where all the locations are. Like, where is that car dealership? And where is it where that cop catches her asleep? Like I just being an LA native, and I think you are too, right?
Since I was 14, yeah. All of that information is online. I've gone and Googled and found, the long road to the base motel. I seem to remember the little town where she worked was in Sacramento. I think, I'm not sure, but I think. And the Psycho house. What's that?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, isn't it more fun though to try to figure it out without tapping the online database on it?
Yeah, but that's hard to do. I'm pretty good of going, that's the back lot at Universal. The house when they shot Psycho was a Paramount picture. Let's start with that. Mm-hmm. But the house where they shot it, when they shot it, was where the chicken ranch is now, from the best little house in Texas, overlooking Jaws Lake, and that hill leading up to the chicken ranch was the hill that where the Psycho house was. Then they moved it up the street to Falls Lake for Psycho 2, and then they moved it for Psycho 3 and subsequent projects where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the same house. I mean, they built and rebuilt and changed, all that stuff.
Right, that's the trick. And there's now a Norman Bates they've employed. There's probably a couple of them who do like the old throw the body in the trunk bit when the tram rolls by. It's pretty.
Yeah, they didn't do that when I was a guide. Although I did suggest you guys should have, mock filming throughout the tour so people get a feel. Because if they're filming something, then the tour, avoids the area. They put wigwag lights up, which are, for people who don't know what that is, it's just a flashing light to let you know, be quiet, avoid the area they're filming. But every once in a while, we would be avoiding Jaws Lake because they were shooting Murder, She Wrote, but we would pass by all the honey wagons, and out would walk Claude Akins or Angela Lansbury, and they always gave the people on the tour a little hello. And I would hand them the mic. And those are special moments for people on the tour because they didn't often see people shooting.
No, but that's Angela Lansbury was class.
Oh my goodness, was she class?
Yeah, total pro. Great about that kind of thing that you're talking about. I mean, obviously you had the moments, but I actually worked some Murder, She Wrote events because I when I didn't get hired as a tour director, I got kicked into special events. That's where all the tour guide rejects were sent. It's kind of like a suicide unit in the military. And we saw her quite a bit, and she was very gracious, incredibly gracious with everyone. It didn't matter what your role was. She was, and I didn't even actually know that she was this legend from Gaslight. I just knew her as the Murder She Wrote lady. Yeah, I'm like 17. I didn't even know about that stuff.
I knew her from the musical Maine. I mean, I knew that she was a musical theater person more than I knew that she had come from Gaslight and just a history of. Oh, I remember seeing her in That's Entertainment, MGM, and she was a contract player for MGM.
Right.
But you think of Angela Lansbury as 60-something Jessica Fletcher, and not. She was like 19, I think, when she did Gaslight.
Yeah.
And she looked so sophisticated and so elegant. 19 back in the 40s, very different 19 than today.
And everyone did a tour of duty on Murder, She Wrote, it seems like, and it was a fun show for what it was. But I always look at these shows going, hey, show me your badge, lady. I'm not going to talk to you. Like, she always unwraps these murders where these people like Miss Marple, like, what? You're not a member of law enforcement. I'm not going to confess to it. But you know what, though? It had a huge audience, and it is definitely fun entertainment. And there's a couple of good Halloween episodes I would recommend to people that are fun for people who like that kind of entertainment. Who was the favorite person of yours that you worked with? Like, who did you walk away from a session with or a day on the set with where you're like, wow, that was incredible. That person made it incredible. Now, I know people say it about you, Bob. I know that people reference you. Yeah, they do. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it.
I was so we were friends before we worked together, but my first time doing Porky Pig professionally was on Tiny Toons, sitting next to June Foray. And I would say, and I worked with June, I think I worked with her on her very last Looney Tunes job too. So I worked on my first and her last. But I had known June since I was about 14. I met her at a SIFA animation event. And I also met Dawes Butler that day. And I never got to work with Dawes. I just studied with him. But June, working with June, doing Tweety to June's granny was, man, it was like, working with royalty. And she was so sweet and so kind. And she was a good teacher. And and she was fun to party with. She used to like to go out for dinner and have her vodka tonics. And I was very grateful when she stopped driving because she should have done that 10 years before. But yeah, I would say working with June was definitely a highlight. I don't get starstruck. I've worked with a lot of major celebrities. I'll tell you a really fun one. Quentin Tarantino did an episode of Duck Dodgers. And he came in wearing a Fred Flintstone t-shirt. And I'm with Joe Alasky. I'm doing Porky. Joe's doing Daffy or Cadet and Dodgers. And Tarantino comes in and he's literally jumping up and down like a giddy teenager. So excited to be working with Porky Pig and Daffy Duck. So excited to be doing a Looney Tunes project. Comes up to me and he goes, "Oh my God, I am such a huge fan. I'm in." And he's like doing that "we're not worthy" thing from Wayne's World. And I said to him, "You do know that you're Quentin Tarantino, right?" And he goes, "I know, but this is like way above." I said, "You do know that you did Pulp Fiction, right?" And he goes, "No, this is like way." I said, "This is really just so cool that you're just so giddy to be doing this." Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's an experience most of us don't have. Quentin Tarantino, doing the "we're not worthy" move on you. So if it's not Gremlins that almost took your life thanks to your coffee binge, or Porky Pig, Tweety Bird, or collecting death masks from Legends, Bob here is
life masks, not death masks. They were alive.
Oh, life masks. Sorry.
Yes.
Who's the most obscure life mask? What's the most obscure life mask you have, by the way?
Well, I've got Buster Keaton, and a lot of people today are going to go, "Who?"
Really?
Oh, I'll tell you what's cool. If you can see it, over there above the lamp, if you can see it, I've got the life mask that was used in Mrs. Doubtfire when they took the plastic off of Robin Williams' face. And so that's the actual mask.
Brilliant.
Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr at the top are kind of obscure. Why would they have life masks? I don't know, but I got them.
Do you have one?
There is right at the top, right there. The two top
That's
are
you?
Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr.
No. Where's do you have one? Do you have one?
No, I don't have one. I don't want to make one. I'm claustrophobic, and the last thing I want is to have a face full of plaster. Also, I think it'd be a little bit narcissistic to have a mask of myself on my wall. I can tell you who I want. I can tell you who I want that I've not won yet on a bid, and I'm not going to go crazy spending money. But there's a De Niro one.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Jerry Lewis one, and I love Jerry Lewis. There's a death mask that I really want. And it pops up every once in a while. Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, that's a good one too. That's a real
Abraham Lincoln and Mozart's hands.
All right. Wow, Mozart's hands. You'd be happy to know that Jerry Lewis's son, Scott Lewis, is a part of our Christmas Carol event on November 21.
No kidding.
You can get all your Jerry Lewis backstory.
Okay. Okay.
Fascinating guy to talk to. Lewis was an underappreciated filmmaker. I think he was seen more as like on the surface gag guy, but man, did he have film production technique that I think a lot of people overlook. So that's
didn't he come up with the Video Village to be able to watch it take after it was shot?
He might have. That I don't know for sure, but that sounds like something he would put together. Video Village. And that sounds like a name he would give it, doesn't it?
Right.
Video Village. Exactly. Video Village. Well, buddy, this has been a real privilege for us. You're definitely a Hall of Fame player, and you've done nothing but exceptional work. I am hoping, I don't know what it took us so long to get together, but I'm hoping we can do a part 2 if you're gracious enough to carve out the time. But I'm going to leave the last word to you, Bob. What do people need to know?
Oh, people need to know that they can reach me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and email me. And if you're interested in getting into voiceover, I sit here and just chat with people who have dreams all day. Now, I'm honest. Don't pop me a note if you don't want honesty. But I love teaching. I'm working on a whole bunch of stuff I can't talk about because of NDAs. But man, I'm so lucky. I'm one of the luckiest guys on the planet to be able to do what I do.
Yeah. God bless you, buddy. You are super talented and a very gracious individual. It's been a privilege to talk to you, and we're here if you need anything. I appreciate your time.
And I cannot wait till Christmas. So I'm delighted to be a part of it. Excited to be doing it.
It's our privilege to have you part of it. I cannot wait for it either, especially with this lineup that seems to be gravitating to it this year. And you are perfect, both in content of character and skill set, for this sort of Saturday Night Live one-day chaotic setup of comedy. So I think it's going to be an absolute blast, and you'll have to forgive me for not getting you involved sooner. Keith Farley, a mutual friend of ours, goes,
good.
Yeah, but Keith Farley this year goes, who you got to get in on this is Bob Bergen. And that's what led to this call, which led to this interview, which led to these possibilities. Keith makes great recommendations, and he was absolutely right in your case. And I should be ashamed of myself for not getting you involved sooner, but we'll make up what we can now.
All good. And I will give Keith 10% of what I make on this job.
There you go. He'll be happy to hear it. I just texted him actually right before I started talking to you, telling him what we were going to get together for this.
Oh, very cool.
All right, brother. Well, listen, we have a lot of respect for you. Anything you need, we are here for. And I want to thank you for your time.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Hi there, everybody. Voice actor Roger Craig Smith here to talk to you about NMOSD. It can paralyze you, it can blind you, it can even kill you in a matter of minutes, but we are very close to a cure. And with that cure could come a cure for cancer. So please go to the Guthrie Jackson Foundation and donate today. Appreciate it.